Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is the beginning of an ambitious project. I am going to start this library that will let me do better graphical user interfaces for my JSFX plugins. And in case you have no idea what those are, then it's just REAPER. This digital audio workstation allows you to write audio effects that work in real time and that are just like a script. And it's super easy to get started. And it also teaches you a good amount of how to do graphical user interfaces and how to do digital signal processing. So I got hooked into that, and I developed a bunch of audio processors that way. And I want to make them look better. So first, I'm going to discuss what is the scope of this project that we are starting. And then we'll get the ball rolling and try to do a couple things, like maybe the colors. We'll pick the colors, we'll pick the spacing, and then the big project is to have a design system for graphical user interfaces. So a design system that will come with a palette of colors, palette of font sizes, and spacing situations, and that sort of thing. But also, I want to add to this library some common digital signal processing operations. So I'm going to start by discussing actually why you would even want to do this. Why would you want to have a library like this? What is the point? But before I do, I just want to comment on something that I really appreciate. So even before I start streaming, there is always a like. Almost always, I think. There is always a like. And I know who you are. I don't know why you are doing this, but I like you back. Just wanted to say that. So, what's the story here? Why am I interested in this thing? Why do I want to have a library for JSFX? Well, I want to discuss the trade-off of JSFX versus other kinds of real-time audio processors. In case you have used a digital audio workstation like REAPER, then you probably have used VSTs or audio units and that sort of thing. And usually the way it goes is people start off writing JSFX because it is a low barrier entry point for writing audio effects. So people start by writing JSFX, or some people start by doing that, and then they outgrow the JSFX ecosystem because they want to do fancier things, and JSFX is not a sophisticated language, so it doesn't allow you to do those things. And then they move on to do VSTs and audio units. Another reason to do VSTs and audio units is that they work in other digital audio workstations besides REAPER. And there were some things that I was trying to do with my audio effects that were like, I think I'm starting to reach the frontier here. I think it's time for me to look into how to develop VSTs and audio units. So I did that. I started looking into how they are developed, and it's actually more straightforward than I was expecting. The tools are really good. But there were some downsides. The upsides, I think, are clearer. VSTs work across the board in other digital audio workstations, and using libraries like Juice, it's a C++ library to do VSTs, audio units, even standalone apps that process audio in real time. If you're using a library like Juice, it doesn't only come with the infrastructure for building VSTs and apps and so forth, but it also comes with a lot of these digital signal processing tasks ready for you. So if you want to do an EQ, Juice comes with a class that is capable of doing filters, low-pass filter, high-pass filter, band filter, and so forth. And that's something that does not exist in JSFX. There are only 2 or 3 operations that come with JSFX. Everything else you have to write by hand. And they have objects for doing delay lines and, well, many other things you would need. So the advantages of using something like Juice are clear. But what are the disadvantages? Well, first, the development process is not as smooth. In REAPER, I can create a JSFX. In fact, how about we start by doing exactly that, and I can show you what I mean in terms of development experience. So let me go to JSFX folder and create a new JSFX. I think that I'm going to call this like VFX / I guess I'm going to call this library that we are developing, this design system. I guess I'm going to call it like L_, and this is going to be a prefix for all the functions and names in there. But for now, let's just do something like test JSFX. Oh, and something absolutely real important that I have to do is to mute the master track and remove these outputs. I definitely don't want Reaper to send any audio to our ears. I'm not wearing my headphones, but you are, so I don't want to blow your speakers. But in terms of development experience, just look at this pane here on the right. It's showing you all the variables in real time, all the variables in your program in real time. And when you change something and save, Reaper is going to continue processing the audio with the new code, but it's not even going to flush out the variables if you don't want. You can always click here on full compile reset, but if you don't want, you can just continue using the audio effect and changing the code underneath. The feedback loop is instantaneous. That's great. And just in general, I think that JSFX and EEL2, which is the language that we write JSFX in, it's a much simpler language than C and C++, and lots of things just work. You don't have to think about allocation and deallocation. You don't have to think about null pointers and that sort of thing, which can also be a downside. If you don't manage memory correctly, you will not be notified of that. But in general, I think that EL2 is a great little language, and I want it to be more powerful. And IDQD sound, hey Arya, says, you got 3 this time. 1 is me usually. Oh, that's nice of you. So there are other libraries for JSFX. There are at least 2 that I know of. And one is specifically for graphical user interfaces, and it looks great. JSFX GUI library. That's actually great looking, and it has most of the widgets that we would want, and it's super easy to use. The documentation is great. So why would I create my own? Well, I think it will be a fun project. I will want to have some DSP, some digital signal processing tasks in the library, so I don't think that this has that. Haven't really checked. I don't remember seeing that, but I don't think it has something like a filter for an EQ, that sort of thing. And I guess that's mostly it. I want to have fun, and I want to have more control. And I don't think that this worked well with Retina displays last time I checked, but that may have been addressed already. In any case, and also I'm more interested in, at least to begin with, in showing you the outputs of whatever the effect is doing. So if you are doing an EQ, I want to show you the EQ curve. If you are doing a compressor, I want to show the gain reduction in the graph. So I'm mostly interested in that sort of output. In terms of input, most of the things that I want to do, like sliders and dials and buttons, I can get away with the default things that come with JSFX. So if you don't do anything fancy, you just say like slider 1, hello equals 0, going from 0 to 10 in steps of 1. So you just get a slider. And most of the inputs for all the effects that I want, you can do with these sliders and some drop-down menus, which are also supported. So I'm not too interested, not to begin with anyway, not too interested with inputs. I'm more interested with drawing outputs. So I will have widgets for things like displaying a waveform, displaying a frequency spectrum, that sort of thing. And I want to build everything from scratch too, because I think it will be educational. IDQD says that there is a separate library for DSP stuff, but it's not maintained anymore and it's not super well documented. Well, yes, I think that there are more than one in the DSP side of things. But I want to learn the DSP, so I'm going to recreate most of these things. And we'll get there when we get there. The graphical user interface comes first for me. I want the JSFX to look great. That's what I want to do first. And then the DSP will come later. In fact, I am reading this book called DSP Guide, which is a great book. And I will try to implement most of the things that I find here. And when you end up using my library, it will feel like you are just putting blocks together the same way you would when you are using Juice, or even something higher level like Pure Data, Max, and so forth, except that you will not have a graphical boxes moving around and wires connecting boxes and that sort of thing. But I think if I have the right library functions, it will have the same taste of just, I have an idea, I can quickly push out that idea and it just works. So, more control, a little fun, learning how to do things. What's not to like about this? Okay, so I already have a design system that is called LeafX CSS. It's, of course, for CSS, so it's for web stuff. But I copied and pasted all the design decisions, all the design system from both this book called Refactoring UI, this book, and Tailwind, which is a framework designed by the authors of this book. And they have opinions on colors and spacing and many more things. And I copy and pasted all their decisions because I think that they are fairly good. Oh yeah, so I want to say this out loud. I want to state this. My goal with this library is that it's going to be good looking, easy to use, so that people stop complaining that the JSFX don't look nice. Because they can look nice. Most of them don't though. So I can show you some. For instance, there is this compressor that everyone says, I don't know too much about that. I don't know compressors all that well, but people seem to like this compressor. But what they don't like is that the interface is not as polished, because it's just sliders and a gain reduction thing. So it doesn't help you see what's going on the same way that, I don't know, FabFilter Pro C2 would help you see the compression, see the shape of everything. And people say that you should use your ears, not your eyes, but your eyes help. So the reputation of JSFX is that they don't look as nice, but they sound nice. Most people agree that they sound okay, most of them. Most people agree that most JSFX sound nice. The DSP is there. They've done the mathematics, but they just don't look as appealing. And you have to enjoy looking at the tool if you're going to use the tool so much in your day-to-day job. So yeah, I want to have an excellent library that is easy to use, that is good looking, and then people will just say that JSFX sound great and look great, because it is possible. I mean, look at this. This is an EQ that, of course, is not as featureful as FabFilter Q3, but it looks nice. It looks like something you could use every day. And I want to have something like this and that is an even bigger goal. When I have the library, I want to have something like this for compression, for expanders, for my alto mixer, for a voice leveler, and so forth. I want to have more plugins that look like this instead of plugins that look like one of my other favorites here. I'm using this limiter right now in my voice. You are hearing the result of this limiter, and I think it sounds okay, but it is not as visually appealing as this one. And I think that visuals matter. Of course, there are excellent plugins that are not visual, like all the Air Windows stuff. But I want my stuff to be visual. So that's what's up. So Bo says, hey Bo, great to have you here. Impromptu live stream. GUI for Reaper, looking forward to it. I was just doing some sketching of an interface for my compressor. All right, so it seems like we have aligned goals and we may even collaborate on this compressor stuff. But I will not get to the compressor in the near future, I don't think. Because I will do all the infrastructure around it first. So usually when I'm developing JSFX, I open the JSFX here, but I also open it in Visual Studio Code because there are some things that are better in one or the other. So let me go to my library, application support, Reaper, and then effects, liafac. In fact, I think I'm going to open all the effects because one of the things that Visual Studio Code does better than this Reaper IDE is global search. So when time comes for me to do something like when I want to see what they have in terms of font, what people are doing in terms of font, then I can do a global search for all the JSFX installed on my machine. And I can see all the places where people are doing something with fonts. And in many cases, the JSFX documentation it falls short. And looking at the source of other plugins is the only way to learn about some features. So that's why I have all the plugins here open. And usually I would develop on, when I'm developing scripts, I would develop on a separate folder that is already the Git repository that I can push to GitHub so that you all can use my scripts using Repack. But with JSFX, I have to keep them in the Reaper configuration folder for Reaper to see the effects. So at some point I will have to copy and paste this into my Git repository to push this to Repack. So with all of that introduction out of the way, let's look at the design system that I'm going to start. So this is the CSS that I'm going to port to JSFX in some way. I'm not even sure how I'm going to do that. And let's talk about Reaper is here. Hey, let's talk about Reaper. Good afternoon. Or I would say good evening. It's already 7 p.m. where I am. So most of these we don't care about. And then fonts, we care about some of these. So let's start taking notes. Things that we will want to cover with our design system. Font family. Well, I'll copy and paste. We'll want to do something with font family, maybe. I know that many plugins are using Arial. We just did that search. And if you don't set a font, then it is a monospaced font, which I don't even know which font that is. But it looks nice. It is very old school, and you can make it look nice if you want. And so it seems like the options are either Arial. There is one effect using Tahoma, but I think that's Windows only. Everyone else is using Arial or the default font, and you don't have to do anything to use that. Let me catch up with chat. Okay, fly on the wall is perfect. Oh, okay, so the font, if you don't set a font, it's Courier. Is it? Let's put this to test. I think that the editor here is using Courier. I think that this font is Courier. But let me open my Alto mixer, which is using the default font. And I don't think that this is the same as that. This font doesn't look the same as this font. Let's try to find a character that appears in both. So, yeah, the I, the E. Yeah, the E's don't look the same. See, this E is a bit shorter than this E, and it may be some aliasing thing, but I don't think that these fonts are the same. Even if they are rendered differently because this is rounder and this is more square-ish. I don't think it's the same font. And of course, let's go to font book to see if that one is even Courier. I think it is. Maybe Courier or Courier new. Let's type something. How do I type into this? Font book changed since I last used it. Here. So I can type /users, for instance. Well, eyeballing this, I think that it is Courier. Yes, I am. Let's see this. This serif here on the A is very characteristic. Yes, that is Courier. Most probably. Is it Courier or Courier new? Now they're very similar, but the weight is very different. Yeah, so I think that they're probably using Courier, not Courier new. Let me see. The monospaced font. Also, I'm watching, listening while working on a client server. Okay. Yeah, there are some websites that can identify fonts, but I'm not even gonna go there. I don't really care which font is used by default. The monospaced font, it looks nice, and I bet that in the documentation they will have something to say about that font. And it looks 8-bit, yes, and I like that aesthetics. I think that it will work given the right settings. We'll see. So font family, font size and line height. These always, font size and line height always go hand in hand. And then letter spacing, I don't think we'll have a way to set letter spacing, but that I think will not impact anything. Then width is definitely something that we want to have. Space is definitely something that we want to have. And these are like the width of a box. And this is like the space between two boxes in the interface. Then border width, I think, is something that we'll want to have. Border radius, as far as I remember, you can draw a rectangle with rounded corners. And if we can, I'm always going to go with rounded corners. Then outline is not something that exists in JSFX, I don't think. I don't think we have shadows either. Now it's time for me to look at the docs. Yeah, nothing about shadows. Then this stroke width is for SVGs. It doesn't really make sense. Opacity is something that we can manipulate. The order of elements with some sort of index is not something that we can manipulate. We have to draw things in the right order so they stack correctly. And then rotation. Can we rotate stuff? Yes, we can rotate things as we... So if you have a PNG, for instance, you can plot that PNG, you can render that PNG in JSFX. I don't think I want to use that too much, personally, but it's something that some plugins do to great effect, I think. So for instance, there is this plugin that I like called Tri-Leveler. And this is a PNG. They just put they created a PNG with this interface, and then a PNG with the buttons, and then you can move around the PNG with your cursor. And when you render stuff, you can rotate stuff. So maybe you will have a PNG which is like a pot, and then you can rotate the pot to indicate. As I said, I'm not interested in recreating sliders and recreating pot searches sliders. So I'm not interested in recreating them, but some people may be interested, so it doesn't hurt for me to include the rotation stuff. And the technical term for getting a PNG and putting it on the page is to blit. Is what it is. Yeah, it's how you render a PNG. You blit the PNG. So rotate, I will want to include. And Bo says, could you do a low cut on the mic feed there is some low and booms from the keyboard. Okay. Good to know. I promised that I wouldn't continue fiddling with my voice chain signal, but I failed. I continued to change things. So that's why it sounds different. So here's my EQ. It's currently sitting at 70, so maybe we'll go up to maybe 90, and that may help. And maybe we'll have a deeper cut around here and put another one there. Yeah, let me know if this helps. Of course, I'm doing this blind. I'm not hearing anything. So rotate, scale. Can you scale stuff? When you blit, what happens? Scale. So let's have scale and skew. You cannot skew things when you blit them. See, rounded rectangle. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, nothing about skewing. Then brightness. I don't think that we can manipulate the brightness of something. Oh, actually you can. But that's a low-level operation, and I'm not sure that I'm going to implement something about this. Well, it doesn't hurt to include it. Sorry, and add blur, please. Blur? Oh, I see what you mean. Blur. Oh, I didn't even know that that was a thing. Cool. But I guess there is nothing for me to implement because there is no notion of how much to blur. And the coordinates of where to blur will be dependent on things like spacing and width of stuff. So didn't even know that that was a thing. So contrast. Yeah, so again, it's that low-level operation. So this operation is something that allows you to get a hold of each pixel in a rectangle and do whatever manipulation you want. So if you want to do like brightness changes or contrast changes, you add a constant and multiply a constant and that sort of thing. And it's a very low-level operation, but you may want to have a design system for how much you're going to apply those operations as you do them. So contrast is something that you can do with that. And I think that you can also change saturation using the same. Yeah, it doesn't say here on the page, but I think that you can change saturation using that same procedure, that same low-level procedure. Now, this blur thing is for the amount of blurriness, which is not something we have control over in JSFX, so that doesn't make sense. And then sepia is an effect that exists in JavaScript or CSS, but not in JSFX. And drop shadow and animations like this. Animations is something that, of course, is not built in, but could be nice to have some animation stuff in the library. So, of course, this doesn't make sense because this is what you are going to animate. And in JSFX, there is no first-class citizen for animations. So you just have to do the animation yourself, or maybe the library will do that for you. But then the transition duration is something that we may want to have in the design system. So whatever we end up doing in terms of animation, you'll be able to use this transition duration thing. And even the timing function also makes sense. If you want the animation to be linear, just going from one point to the other, or if you want to speed up in the beginning and slow down at the end, that sort of thing. That's what a timing function is. Then there are some CSS animations that don't really translate, and then color. That's a big one. So probably that's going to be the top of the list. We're probably going to start with color. Then there is this component that doesn't really make sense. That's a CSS thing, and that's the end. Okay, we'll have to copy and paste a bunch of values from there, but that's the end of the library. So those are the things that we want to include in our design system for now. Now, in which order do we want to do this? I will probably keep the order of the code the same as this order. I don't remember where I came from. The order, I think, came from the order I found in Tailwind. These are the links I followed. And if you're interested in seeing these yourselves, this is the link for the page that we are looking at. Arya asks, so is this stuff available? If this stuff isn't available, how did req get made? Is it using something else? No, as far as I understand, let's go to req. Where is it? Here it is. So this is the source code for req, and as far as I understand, it's not using any library. It just implements everything from scratch. You can see that the imports are just for other things that come from this same folder, and they have to do with like calculating the frequency spectrum and some EQ filters and how to manage text input and that sort of thing. So I think that the author of req, this fellow, Justin, re-implemented or implemented from scratch everything. No library inside here. I think that's how it's done. In fact, we are probably going to look at this code at some point to understand how it's doing some of the things like drawing the curves and everything. But it's only like 5,000 lines of code, and I think it's manageable. We already dissected, 3,000 lines of C and C++ code in the stream before. It was on a Friday, and we dissected the black hole source code. That was a lot of fun. So we can do something similar to req. I think we'll need to do something because it's one of the best looking JSFX. It's not the only one though. There is also another one called Filter. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that one. I mean, look at this. This is the stuff. And I suppose that this is using the UI library that we looked at before, kind of recognize these boxes. But yeah, this is looking great. It has some dynamics things here and some curves and a frequency spectrum. Yeah, this is what I look up to in terms of what a plugin should look like. Yeah, Rectasaurus I think is by the same author even. Yeah, okay, we got to the same people actually. Psyche makes some gorgeous JSFX. Yes, I want to do some gorgeous JSFX myself. Most of my JSFX don't have any graphical user interface. They're just sliders. And the ones that have graphical user interfaces look like, I mean, look at the alto mixer. Meh. You know what I mean? It's not bad. But we are going to improve on this. Okay, so we know what we want. Now, how do we even define variables? In CSS, I know how to do that. We define a CSS variable like this. And I know how to use it. How do we do something like this for JSFX? Well, let's start by just drawing something with some color on the screen, and then we'll start abstracting things and putting things into a library and everything. So just want to have a GFX block, and I will set a certain color. Humble beginnings. GFX set. Let me put this side by side. And I'll make this white. By default, the window will be black. Oh, there is nothing here. Do I have to do a full compile reset? Yes, a full compile reset was necessary. So by default, the background is black. And by default, if I set the thing to be 1, the color being 1. The colors are set between 0 and 1, so that's white. And then I can draw a rectangle. From 0, 0 to 100, 100. And here is our white square. Now, as I said, I probably want to start with colors. So how do I extract this number 1, this notion of this number 1 is what I don't want to be hard-coded. I want you to be able to say, I want white, or I want purple. And I will set this for you internally. There are 2 ways to set colors in JFX. One is this set function that we just looked at. And the other is with the JFX R, G, and B variables. So I will do another rectangle to show you this. So red, let's say that this is completely red and completely green, but not blue at all. And no transparency either. A stands for alpha, which is transparency. So if I do that and draw a rectangle from 0, or from 100, 0 to 200, 100, then that is yellow. The mix between red and green is yellow. So there are 2 ways to set colors. And I want to set the colors based on this hexadecimal values that, of course, I copy and pasted from Tailwind. Now, how am I even going to do this? Well, in the future, this is going to be a library. So I'm going to set this up already. And I don't really have a good name for the library, but I know that I want all the functions, all the variables, everything in the library to be namespaced, because I want you to be able to use my library with someone else's library. If you, for instance, like the JSFX GUI library that we looked at before. So if you want to use that one for graphical user interfaces, but you want to use my library for a filter, then I don't want the two to conflict in any way. So I will prefix all my variables, all my functions, everything with a capital L. Stands for library and also for Leandro. And I don't know how else to call this library. I guess I'll call it L. That's the library. And it's a library, so it has this extension for inclusion. And how do you import a library? You just say the name of the file. And as long as the folder as long as the file is in the same folder, I think that you can just say the name. But in this case, we have here, well, this is commented out to begin with. But if you had a folder, then you would specify the folder. In this case, I think that the library will not be in any folders. So over here, I will just, and where do you import? Do we import in the right after the slider stuff? So before any blocks. So I can import L.JSFX Inc. That's important. Then over here, can I define something like, I guess I'll have to have an init block. And can I define something like L white to be the number 1? I know, silly. Humble beginnings. So now that I imported this library, I should be able to use it here. Does that work? Can you pass variables through libraries? I know that you can do functions through libraries, but can you do variables through libraries? I'm not sure. Let's see. So now this import situation is loaded, and then we full compile reset, and yes, the variable is here. So variables go through in the libraries as well as functions. Now, using this JSFX set, it's really just a shorthand to set all the variables. So I probably don't want to use JSFX set because it even overrides alpha, for instance. So if you are in alpha 50%, things are 50% transparent. If you are in 50% transparency and you switch colors, this JSFX set will reset the alpha to 1. But I don't want that. I want to be able to change colors and change alpha independently. So JSFX set is out of the way. Now, I could have variables for the amounts of red, green, and blue on all my colors in the design system, but then you would have to use something like this. And that is just annoying, right? So I think what I'm going to do instead, first of all, this is not going to work. This is going to be black on black. Because by default, these variables don't exist and they look black. See? 0. So instead, what I'm going to have is a function. So I'm going to call this, probably I want to have something like color white. Yeah, I'm going to use underscores. When I was using double dashes to separate things, I'm going to use underscore instead. And this is the namespace for all the things in my library. So L underscore color white, this one. So this will be a function, actually. It will be a function that will change those 3 variables. So how do I define a function in JSFX? I don't remember. I think it goes something like this. And now I will do that. So now I should be able to call L. First of all, what happens if you just do whatever? Will it complain? Yeah, okay. Error recompiling. So it checks the function names for me, which is good because it means that you will know right there if you did something that is not in the design system. All right, so that worked. So that's going to be our strategy. We're going to have a function that changes the color. Let me see. Oh yeah, I wanted to check if autocompletion works across libraries. No, fortunately it doesn't. I know for a fact that if I have an init with a function called hello that doesn't do anything, then this will give me autocompletion, right? Yeah, it does. Autocompletion works in a weird way. Tab to insert, okay. But it doesn't work across libraries. Well, too bad. If you really want that, I guess you could copy and paste the whole code from my library in the init block, and then you will have autocomplete in REAPER. For my library, that is. Are you saying that it sometimes does and sometimes does not? Lol. Yep. This autocomplete thing is newer in REAPER and I did not really use it too much. So I don't have the muscle memory for autocomplete in REAPER. Okay, so we have white. Now, I think it's time for us to... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into my directory for JSFX and I'm going to create a Git repository here. It's kind of silly because I already have a Git repository for everything, but in development, I will be changing stuff so quickly. And I always like to have some checkpoints. So for instance, now I have a checkpoint of everything working and I want to have a clear understanding of what I changed along the way. So next, what we want is to have one caller for all of these guys, one function for all of these guys. So we want to have functions for all of them, and we also want to change this notation, which is hexadecimal, into this notation. That's what REAPER understands. So sit back and relax while I do this by hand. No, of course not. Of course I'm not going to do this by hand. We are going to write a program that will take this as input and produce that as output. Of course we will. Who has the time to do this by hand? Okay, I trick it with doing one arrow down and then one arrow up and then hit enter. Oh yeah, I guess you can also do tab. That probably, I mean, it worked for me now. So let's start writing a program that will change this notation, this CSS notation, into JSFX notation. Let's create a file called converge. And I'm going to write this in JavaScript because that's the language that I know better. And transparent and current color don't make sense in JSFX, I don't think. Transparent is just alpha 0, and current color is not a concept. It's a concept in SVGs. Alrighty. So these are, I'm going to call this my CSS. It's my input. And then I am going to do the following. I'm going to start by finding, oh, hang in there. Why did it mess my spacing? I don't know. Bo says, by the way, I'm coding an auto leveler for dialog based on my whole RMS. So far, it's looking good. Yeah, that's one of the things I want to do as well. I want to do a leveler for dialog. So we are so much on the same page. Okay, so what? Well, let's see what are all my callers. Or maybe not. We will have a function for each line in this. We'll have a function, right? Each line in this is one of those color possibilities. So that becomes very easy. All we have to do is, we're going to do this in a single line, actually. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's kind of nice. Now I appreciate why it was stripping away the spaces. Yeah, so we'll have one function for each one of these lines. Awesome. So let me split. I'll trim the spaces in the beginning of the end and the end, and I will split on a new line. Then I'm going to map, and at the end I'm going to join with this. Okay. Let me catch up. Sweet. It's like ASMR for the eyes, watching stuff automatically fall into place. Lols. I'll call each one of these lines the color line. And then I am going to match one of these lines. It has a particular format to it. Well, they have a particular format, and I guess I'm going to do this the hacky way, which is not using regular expressions. Usually I would pull a regular expression to do this, but this format is so simple that I think we can pull it off without regular expressions. So what we're going to do is, my color is, well, how about my red? My red is just one of these lines. And I'm going to slice the line, and where do I want to start? I want to get 88. So let me see when I get to 88. (21) and minus 5. Then probably there is a smarter way of doing this. My blue is going to be that plus 2 plus 2. And my green is going to be that. Why did I write it by hand? +2 +2. Of course, I want this to be numbers, so I will parse them into numbers, and I think that JavaScript has a function called number to convert strings into numbers. That much I know, but I think that there is a second argument to treat this as a hexadecimal. Am I right about this? Number of like A1 in hexadecimal, not a number. Okay, JavaScript string to number hex. Parseinch. And why do you need number in there? Ah. Okay, I think I understand that example, but I think it's parseinch. Like this. Does that check? What is the number 10? It's 16. 11. It's 17. A is the number 10. F is the number 15. 10, 16. Okay, that works. So we'll not use a number, we'll use parseinch. So now we have those red, green, and blue as numbers going from 0 to 255. And then we are going to generate some JSFX. And it will look like this. And over here, I'll have to give it a name. I will do that shortly. But in here, I will get my red, green, and blue. Red. It should be red, green, and blue. RGB. RGB. There you go. And these two lines are swapped. Okay, RGB. RGB. There you go. And I have to divide all of them by 255 or 256. It goes from 0 to 255. And then I will put my red, my green, and my blue. And this is going to be a long number, a long decimal number. I may truncate it, but I may not. We'll see. And then I think it's important that we see the result. So I'll call console log on this whole program. And it's a single line. Well, it's a single statement. It's not a single line, but it's a single statement. Oh, okay. Now I don't like the indentation because I put the console log and the whole indentation went off. Do I want to do something about it? I guess I will do something about it. Let's fix this indentation. So the program looks nice as well as works nice. And of course, now that I did this, I have to, as the first thing in treating the color line, I will trim it. So what's up in chat? It's a joy watching Leandro code. Thank you. He narrates while he does it. Thank you. How about an RGB color picker? Too complicated? Well, an RGB color picker is not as complicated as you might think. It doesn't exist already in JSFX, and it can be a cool trick. So I'll put it on the list, but I'll put it with question mark, because one of the cool things about having a design system is that you don't have to reach for the color picker all that often, and that's intentional. You don't want to be in the mode of designing and then be in the mode of picking the right shade of blue. Those are usually two separate things. You do a design system and then you go about designing user interfaces. But in some cases, you may need a color picker. And when I say that a color picker is not super hard to do, I mean a basic color picker. Color pickers can go really, really deep because color spaces and color theory goes really, really deep. But here we are. This is what it looks like. We have our little color white. Well, color white is not the right name for this, is it? But before I even do that, before I even fix that, let's see what we have. So yeah, this is outputting a bunch of numbers, and let's just get the right name. So to get the right name, I want to get this portion. So let me go again to the console and start fiddling around with the lines. Oh no. Let's grab this one as an example. And I trimmed it. Oh yeah. Okay. So let's slice, and I want to get rid of dash color. So how far do I need to go? 10 is too much. 8, 9. I have to go 9. And from the end, I want to get all of these out. So how much do I need to go? 10. I think I nailed it. First try. Yep, it's 10. So this is the code you write to get this part. But of course, I have to replace all the dashes with an underscore. And now let's check this out. Yep, there we go. A design system, or at least colors for a design system. Let's check that L white is white. Let's double check that our math is correct and everything. Oh, we have some not a numbers. So yeah, there is a mistake, and we'll see about that. Oh, the white is not even there. So how about we just output this to a file called remove.txt. Then we can see remove.txt, and black and white are already not a number. So what's up with that? Okay, let's see. I'm fine without a color picker. I'm so used to picking RGB values from memory. But for users that haven't worked with RGB half their lives, I guess a user that wants a custom palette can relatively easily copy the library and then replace the values. Yeah. And in fact, I think that in the future, Tailwind is going to update these values, and then I'm going to copy and paste the values into the script, and I will have an updated design system for JSFX as well. So what's up with that? Why is it that I'm not getting the right colors and everything? Well, how about I comment this out for a moment, grab just the first one, and let's look at it in detail. Well, I don't need to put it in a file anymore. So these are all not a numbers. Why? Well, I can sort of reproduce these lines real quick in the console because it's so easy to do. First of all, just making sure that I have the color line correctly, all my mapping and splitting and trimming and everything, all of that should be functional. Yes, this line looks correct. So next, let's investigate our RGB values. So we have this string. And then what happens when I slice it like this? I expect to see 0, 0. Okay, nothing? Oh, that's so silly of me. The numbers on the right are anchored at the end, but the numbers on the left are anchored in the beginning. So I need to anchor both at the end. Can I do that? Yes, I can. So that's a simple fix. And in fact, I think I know how to calculate them. It's just 2 more, right? Just 2 more than this other one that I already calculated. So I have to replace this with a bunch of new numbers. So 7 and 5 and 3. And then I can remove this console log. And did I do the same mistake here? I think I did. No, in this case, it's not an issue because the color stuff is fixed. It's only the name that changes. So now let's run our convert program into remove txt and take a look. Do we have any not a numbers? No. Is black black? Yes. Now let's do the whole thing. Do we have any not a numbers? No. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here is a bunch of functions that we can copy and paste into the library. I don't like the indentation of this. I think I'll fix the indentation by hand though. It's not a big deal. I don't like the spacing of this, but I guess I will fix the spacing by hand as well. Not a big deal. Oh, no, one too many. There we go. And here we are. Chat says Octothorpe. What? And let's, just for good measure, also put here the program that we used to convert this for future reference. And also where we got these values from to begin with. All right, I like what I see. Let me remove these extra files. Remove the remove file, remove the convert file. And we have colors. Commit what I have. I don't like these extra lines at the end. Okay. I think that I'm going to rename this. Instead of calling it test, I'm going to call it L_demonstration. You know what people usually do? They just have liafak at the beginning, like their username at the beginning. At least for Reaper scripts, not for Reaper effects. So what if the library is just called liafak_L? That's better, I think. I don't know if it's better, but it's something. And over here, of course, I have to change that to liafak_L. And if everything is correct, then of course this is no longer the name of the plugin. But yeah, I have this demonstration stuff because I will want to distribute this as an honest to goodness effect. And in the effect, you will have a bunch of tabs. It's going to be similar to the JSFX UI library. So it's going to be similar to this one. There is a JSFX that is this demo and it's sort of documentation as well. So that's what I'm going for. And what I want to have there is something like the tailwind documentation for colors, which I think looks good. Yep, I want to have this sort of stuff in the JSFX window. What did I do? I renamed a bunch of things. Okay. Now, does it still work? What did I call it? Demonstration, that's a bad name. It should be L_demonstration. And then L, and do I need to like scan for plugins? Here it is. Undefined L color white. Oh, I forgot to put the color in the beginning. Oh, so I guess what I want from this program, I'll change it real quick. It's not to slice 9 characters. I just want to slice the first 2. Let me see. If I have something like this, and then slice the first 2 to 10, like this, and I get color black, and then I replace the underscores. So if I reran the program, that would fix things. But since I only have this many, it's easy for me to just do a global replace right now and put some color in there. But I don't want to do it here, so it goes like that. Cancel. Yeah, let me see the changes. Yeah, this is going to work in the future, and then this is the fix for now. In REAPER, is it happy now? Okay, we have a white square. Now let's write one program to do. Where is it? Yes, let's write a program to do one of these for Ember only. And then we'll generalize for all the colors. So we are going to write a template program, and then we are going to write a JavaScript program that will generate some JSFX that we'll paste here. And if we find ourselves doing this JavaScript program that will generate JSFX, if we find ourselves doing that too much, what we'll end up doing is creating a JavaScript program that outputs the JSFX. So JavaScript will be like the meta programming language for us. But I'm not going to cross that bridge until I feel the pain in doing that. So yeah, let's do Ember. So L color Ember. Let's start with 50. And let's do a rounded rectangle. I want to experiment with this more iteratively, so I will write this right here in REAPER. So I have the right color, and then I will draw a rectangle from 0 to, well, it has a width of 100, height of 100, a radius that I think a radius is a good thing for just have as a variable. It's not as a color has to change RGB, so it makes sense for the color to be a function. But the radius, or I guess the plural of radius is radi, so they can be variables. Then for now, I'll just have the number 10 in there, and then there is this anti-alias thing. And what is that about? It doesn't say. What do people do when they use this? They pass the number 1. And this is req, by the way. So here we are peeking at the source. Oh, and here they are doing. So see how they are doing everything by hand? Don't you think that they will be happy when we have this library and we have a bunch of colors, and then they can use the colors instead of having to do this? I mean, for one thing, what is this color? Bo, you said that you have experience working with RGB. What is this color? Tell me right now. I don't know. And then there's this other person who is passing 0. Okay. And then there is this other person who is passing a given radius and not passing the optional argument at all. Then there is this other person who is passing 0. So some people pass 0, some people pass 1, some people don't pass anything. We will try all 3 possibilities, starting by not passing anything. I prefer not to pass something if it's optional. So it draws a rectangle. Oh, okay, it is not filled in. Okay, that's unfortunate. Arya says, I think so the edges aren't pixelated when you resize. Should be a boolean. Yeah. I get that impression as well. In fact, I think it's better if I don't have it on the corner, so we can have the full shape on the screen. Now, the unfortunate thing is that this is not filled in. And there is nothing else. And in many cases, I will want the rectangle to be filled in. In some other cases, I will prefer it to not be filled in, but I don't think I have that option, do I? In any case, let's see. This is what it looks like right now. Let's make it not anti-alias, and let's make it anti-alias. So by default, just visually, we can, maybe you cannot see on the stream, but I noticed 70 bow sets, but that was it. So you didn't see the color that I was challenging you? Bo, this is the color. 70, 105, 127. What's that color? In the function above, there was a fill argument. Well, that's for a circle. And in the triangle, you can fill and you can fill a rectangle. And rectangle is, there is a typo in there. Yeah, so it seems like you cannot draw rounded, you cannot draw filled, rounded corner. But that's okay. We can add to the list of things to do to implement that ourselves. So I was writing over here, I will want to have filled in rectangles with rounded corners. I use them all the time in interfaces, so I think it's an important thing for us to have, and it's not too hard to do. Maybe it still works. Okay, hang in there. Maybe it still works in the rect, but isn't documented. Seen it happen in other stuff. Okay, so Bo is saying that it's darkish cyan. That's what you're saying, Bo. Pale petrol. Okay. I believe you, but I want to check. I trust, but I verify. And in this case, I want to fill. So I go with rect. Yes, just rect. I want to fill because it will, I want to fill the rectangle so we can see the color. Okay, pale petrol. Yeah, there you go. I could never tell. You are brilliant, Bo. You are brilliant. So you're saying, Aria, that maybe if we have an extra argument that will fill things in? No. What is interesting is that it's not complaining about the extra arguments, but no. So anti-aliasing is always a good thing, so I will want to anti-alias, and I want my little thing to have rounded corners like these. So I'm going to implement the rounded corners. I'm going to implement this. How do I do that? I need 3 rectangles and 4 circles. Okay. Let's go to my library, and I don't have my library open. Well, I will extract to the library later. Let's first implement this. I knew it would be a desaturated bluish, but double-checked in Illustrator. You cheated? Arya is even more impressed by the perfect English description of that color. You cheated, Bo. You cheated. Okay, so how do we draw? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have... I want to draw something in Ember 50. First, I'm going to draw something in red 500, which is bright red. And that's going to be my rounded rectangle. Okay. Well, actually, I think I'm going to do it the other way around. So what's going on here? I will implement the rectangle with rounded corners filled in. I will implement that over here. And then I will draw on top the REAPER thing. And the cool thing about doing that is that we'll see if I nailed the coordinates. Let's go to REAPER again. Do you want to reload it? Yes. Can you? Yeah. So we have a rounded rectangle here. Let's implement the thing just right there. I think it should be easy. So I'm getting messages. Bo says, funny thing is, Swedish doesn't even have a lot of color names beyond secondary ones, while English has tons of names for colors. Now, the really funny thing is that the names that you know for the colors shape the colors that you are able to see or not. If you don't have a name for a color, you don't necessarily perceive that color as different from other colors. It's amazing. Color theory is great. So how do we do that? Well, we do a rect from this first coordinate. So let's see. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to draw one rectangle from the position where the cursor is right now to the position where the cursor is here. That's rectangle number 1. Then I'm going to have another rectangle that is from here to there. Or actually, I can do it with just 2. I'll have a second rectangle that goes from here to there. And then I will draw the 4 circles. So let's start with this first rectangle. It needs to be. So let's give these different numbers, shall we? So it will go from 15, 20 to 115, 120. The radius can continue being 10. Oh, did I mess something up? Oh, I didn't pass the arguments for this yet. So here it is, same rectangle, same square. Let's draw a rectangle from here. What is this? This is 15 plus, I guess, half this radius, so 10 divided by 2. In the y coordinate, it's 20 plus 10 divided by 2. And then the width is, it is 115 minus 10. I am missing the height. The height is 120 minus 10. No, it's not. What did I get wrong? Well, it's not right, starting in the right place, so maybe this division by 2 doesn't make sense. Now it's starting in the right place, but it's not ending in the right place, so maybe I will need to divide by, multiply by 2 over here. No, that's not it. I should not do the y coordinate thing. Yes, it needs to go from there. And I should not subtract it here. In fact, I think I need to add something. No, I don't need to add it. Okay, that looks about right. Maybe not 100%, but I think it looks about right. So it is just plus the radius, and then 20, and then minus 2 times the radius, and the height stays there. Okay, now let's do the second one. So now we're going to do it the other way around. We add 10 to the y coordinate, and we subtract 10 times 2 from the y coordinate. So there it is. We filled that part. Now JSFX circle. Oh, do I want a circle or a section of a circle? It can be a circle. It doesn't matter. Unless this is not going to work if your opacity is not completely opaque, because I think that the rectangles will like add on top of each other and you see the shapes that I'm drawing. But I don't think there is a good way to do this unless I set pixel by pixel. And that is probably going to be too slow. So I would just say that if you're using my function to do rounded rectangles that are filled in, you better have opaque colors. Then for circle, what is the x coordinate that I want to go for? It's 15 plus, I want to say 10. And then the y coordinate is 20, and I want to say 10 again. And then the radius, I want to say that the radius is 10, and I want it to fill, and I want it to anti-alias. There you go. We filled that one. Do we need the anti-alias? Do we need to say to fill? Yes. Okay. Now let's do the other three. So this one is the top right. That is 15 plus 115, which is the width, minus 10. And the bottom left is 20 plus 120, which is the height, minus 10, which is the width. The width? No, it is the radius. And then over here, we just combine the two previous approaches. So this is going to the right, and this is going to the bottom. And there it is. So now we just need to extract this into a function. I will call this round rect. I can go for the same name that they have, or I can go for a name that makes sense. Yeah, I'll go for a name that makes sense. Rounded rectangle. And I will fill the thing in every time. So do I need to say something like fill? Rounded rectangle fill. That's my name. Then I have my x coordinate, my y coordinate, the width, the height, the radius. I am using the same names as they are using: x, y, w, h, radius, anti-alias. I will always anti-alias, because the rect function doesn't even have that option, right? The circle has it. Anti-alias, but well, it doesn't really make sense to anti-alias a rectangle, does it? Okay, so I guess it does make sense if you have a subpixel point, but never mind that. So I will let you pass the anti-alias, but then I think that while the library functions can have optional arguments, I don't think that user-defined functions can have optional arguments. So I don't think that makes sense to turn off anti-aliasing, so I'm not giving you that option. Not for now, at least. And then I guess now is a good point for me to jump into Visual Studio Code and do a global search and replace here. Not global, but this 115 is always my width. This 120 is always my height. The 10 is my radius. The 15 is my x. The 20, my y. Let's double check. We draw a rectangle from these coordinates. We draw a rectangle for those coordinates. And then we do some circles with anti-aliasing turned, or just filling in. And anti-aliasing, we're just gonna trust that it's enabled. So that's our function. Then let's call it with L rounded rectangle fill of this same coordinates. And here we are. Let's see what's up with chat. Bo learned those names later in life. Did it affect the way... Oh, so we are talking about color names. Bo, after you learned the color names, did it affect your perception of colors? Is it true what they say? Color theory and color pitch is weird. It's very much like musical pitch. You can have a good relative sense of it and a perfect color pitch. Well, I guess you can also read colors off the page, and that's not something I was expecting that you would be able to, but you cheated. Do you have control over the color of that? Arya, do you mean, this sparks joy, thanks. Do you mean the color of the rounded rectangle? If so, then yes. The way that JSFX colors work is you set the color and then you draw something. You set the color and then you draw something. So if you want to make it purple, for instance, let's make it purple and let's make it very purple. See what I mean? So now we have the function that we can extract to our library. And where does this go? I think I'm going to have design system first and then auxiliary functions for more drawing stuff later. So let's have a comment here. Drawing functions. Over here, I'll have a comment to say colors, and I'll make everything capitalized so it stands out as you read this. All right, so now we can do that. And as I reload, it should work. There you go. So now we can start to do this page, which is what I want to do. Let's grab, oh, I guess I will need the sizes for this to work. So can I can hard code the sizes of the boxes, or I can really quickly just grab the sizes from the design system because there aren't that many. Let's start with the border radius because there really are not that many. And let's commit what we have, because what we have is lovely. Okay, I already did this. Filled rectangles with rounded corners. And, oh, actually I'll keep this in because I will want to have a page of this documentation that is this JSFX, this L demonstration plugin. I will want to have a page with the drawing functions. So it's not complete yet because I haven't demonstrated that. But what was I going to do? Yeah, border radius. So because there are not that many, this makes sense to just do by hand, so to speak. And also there is less mathematics to do for this. I mean, we had to do some mathematics here, for instance. It's simple mathematics, but we had to do it. And over here, I don't think we have to do as much, but we'll see. So what was I thinking? Yes, these comments need to go into the library. And this is something that is only missing, and for that matter, the color as well, is only missing over here. So I'll separate the to-dos for the library and for the demonstration thing. We still need to do the demonstration for the colors, and we need to do the demonstration for, I guess, oh, you know what? We know the to-do list is just this file. There it is. That's the to-do list. Bo says, yes, it very much did. Plus, my color perception is relatively poor. My red-green spectrum is impaired. Oh, that's interesting. When I am designing things, I usually go for color palettes that have difference in brightness to help people who have the sort of thing that you just mentioned. And I test because there are these tools that try to emulate that, but I have never really talked to anyone about this. So when you see designs, do you usually have problems with this? Or is it one of those things that are not really a problem, just people are over worried? Do you find this issue often where there is an interface where something is only distinguished by the shade of red versus green, and then you cannot tell which button to click, for instance? Is this something that happens to you? So yeah, border radius, it will be L_border radius _. And then we have these names. Now I think it's time for me to make a decision. One thing that I don't like about the design system is I copied the names of these variables from Tailwind. I sort of don't like SM, MD, LG. I don't like these. I think I would rather have small, medium, large, if you know what I mean. And this would be a perfect time for me to pull this off for this library. I'm not sure. What do you all think? I have to think about it. I think I'm gonna go for the longer names. Small, base, medium, large, extra large, extra, extra large. Maybe the names, the numbers here wouldn't hurt. 3 extra large. Or maybe extra large 3. Maybe the number could be at the end. More time I spend with this, the more I'm going to start deviating from Tailwind. Okay, so circle doesn't make sense. When you want to draw a circle in CSS, you draw a rectangle and you set a border radius of 50%, but that we already have a primitive for circles. Then this is to have a peel. So the rounded corners are so round that it turns into a peel. And I'm not sure that this is gonna work in JSFX. Let's experiment with this. So let's experiment with the function that comes with Reaper, not mine, because mine, I know for sure, doesn't support peels. But if I have something that is more rectangular, so let's make the height be just 20. So it does appeal, but that's because I chose the exact value to make it appeal. So now let's try to make this appeal by going to 15. And what happens if I go larger? It never gets any larger. So it doesn't break anything. So you can do a peel by just having a set border radius of a very large number. Now, that is not something that I implemented in my version. What the hell is that? Okay, so because it works in Reaper, I'm going to implement this in our function too. So I suppose that the way this can work is just by setting the radius to be the maximum between the, or to be maximum or the minimum. What do I want? I want the radius to not be any larger than the figure itself. So I want the maximum between the radius or the minimum. I can never tell. The minimum between the radius, I guess it's the minimum, between the radius, the width divided by 2, and the height divided by 2. And what about these names? Do you think I should go for width and height? Now is the perfect time to make this decision, because as we have more of these, it's gonna grow worse. I think I'm going to go for the explicit width. Oh, see? It's already an issue. How do I select just these ages? I don't know. I have to select them by hand. And I just noticed this is not sparking dry. So let's double check that we have everything correctly. Do I have age space? No. All right. I think I renamed this correctly. So I want the maximum, the minimum between the actual radius. So in other words, I'm truncating the radius to be half the bigger dimension, the smaller dimension. I don't know. Is this going to work? Let's try. Oh, it needs 2 parameters. I cannot have the minimum of multiple values. That's all right. I think I did it. Yep. That sparks joy. Bo says, yes, red text on black is a what? Shit? Fuck? I don't know. But it should generally be avoided since half of the population has some degree of red-green impairment. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was so widespread. The numbers I read at some point were much, much smaller, especially amongst women. It seems like that sort of impairment has to do with some chromosomes that men have. I don't know. The Y chromosome? Don't quote me on this. Cool geometry, though. Okay, so cool geometry, yeah, I guess you're talking about that glitched version. Yeah, when you're working with graphical stuff and you're doing low-level geometry, you end up doing a lot of these kinds of things, and some of them look good. It's art in that case. Okay, so that worked. Does it work if I have something that is vertically bigger? So if I have something like, let's just invert the dimensions. Yes, it works. Let's see what we changed. Okay, and over here. Okay. It could be nice to have an auxiliary function that does a rectangle and then thus the border. But it would be hard to select the right color. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. You only have an auxiliary function to fill in the space, and if you want to have a different color on the border, you do it yourself just like this. Yeah, the traffic light system, Arya is talking about, that's so damning of the traffic light system, but the traffic light system encodes the information in 2 ways, position and color, so it's not bad. Bo, do you have problems with traffic lights? I don't think so, right? The problem is when you encode a certain piece of information about the design in a single thing, the color, that's a problem. Yep, women generally have better color perception built into them. Men are very rarely fully seeing colors, and color blindness is mostly found in men. I took some tests. It's actually a simple test. I mean, I think that's the test that you would take. Color blind test. And you find these images, and if you are able to tell the number in here, for instance, then you have the good distinction between these colors. You can see the distinction between the colors. I don't know if this is sophisticated enough for the kind of test that you talked about, but can you see the number here? Can you tell what the number is? Arya, can you? And everyone else who is lurking around, can you tell the number? I guess I can. Let's see if we agree. Okay, so all of that was so that I could have my border radius stuff. Let's do the math for this. So 0 pixels is easy, that's 0. And then this rams stuff is based on pixels. So 1 ram is 16 pixels. So 0.125 divided by 16, or times 16, is 2 pixels. So a small border radius is 2 pixels, and that is just double the other one. So that's 4 pixels. And this is just 2 more pixels. And this is half, so that's 8. And that's 3/4, so that is 0.75 times 16, which is 12. This is 16. This is 16 plus 12, which is 28, right? 1.5 times 16. It's 24. I should let the computer do this for me, right? 24. And this is just, it has to be a big number. Just a big number will do. So now we have a design system, part of a design system for border radius. Now I got the math wrong in one. Now I need to double check everything. Where is my design system? It's here. So let's see. I'll put this on the corner over there. I will put our code on the corner or on this side, and I will start doing the math. So 125 times 16 is 2. Then base is 0.25. That's 4. Then 375. That's 6. 8, 12, 16, and then 24. Okay. Bo says no, traffic lights are mostly fine. They take color impairment into account. You cannot see that number. Oh, Bo, Arya can see the number. I guess I can too. Yeah. So this number, on the count of 3, we say it together. 1, 2, 3, 74. That's the number that I see here. Do you agree, Arya? Did you say it out loud at home? Now that we have the border radius, we can start our widget, our screen here. Well, I will want to have some of these. Oh, I don't have the spacing. Oh man, it just keeps coming. Let's get the spacing. The spacing is not as easy. I may write a script for this. And border radius comes after spacing. So let's do, oh, and I think I can take this out. Let's do space. Yeah, I don't want to calculate all of these by hand. So let's write our quick script for us. All of them are in rams. Not all of them are in rams. Not even that. Oh man. Well, let's do the part that is easy. Well, it's not that easy, is it? Because there are negative values as well. Well, that's just a single underscore. Oh, there is an issue. Border radius, that's 2 words. Then we need to separate everything else with 2 underscores. Do we have the same issue with colors? Yes, we do. It should be L underscore color underscore underscore gray underscore underscore. Yeah, I think we need more underscores to separate like the topics, because if you had something like not gray but something that a color name that is 2 words. What is a color name that is 2 words? I don't know. But in our case we have a setting, border radius, that is 2 words. So to separate words we use underscore. To separate topics we use underscore underscore. Right? yeah, so I'll not do space right now. I'll fix this naming issue and yeah, I'll fix this naming issue and then I'll wrap it up. So for border radius, that's easy to fix. And then what we have here, we have some examples, but that's easy. Okay, so over here, that's easy to fix. And do you think that I should go for L underscore underscore? Well, that's too many underscores. So it's L underscore and then separate words are separated with underscore underscore. I guess it's going to be easier if I change my script and rerun it. So let me grab it. A.js, paste it there, go to that page. Oh no, not there, second screen. Go to that page and then find the colors. Oh, okay. And then paste them here. And then all we gotta do is change this. I think that's it. Let's see. I will run a.js and I pb copy so it's right at my clipboard and I can just paste it. So these are my colors. Paste. And the names are right now. And then let's find all of these so we can unindent. Oh, we have plenty. Including black. Oh, you know what? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to fix the spacing issue at the source. The problem is that this space shouldn't be like that. And this should be like this. And we have too many new lines. So how about that? No, still too many spaces. So how about this? And that's just right. Awesome. So I'll run this one last time for good measure. Remove everything in this buffer. Remove everything in that buffer. Oh, no. Don't remove everything in that buffer and close. No, Leandro. You made a mistake. Okay. Because the script changed, right? Just fixed a bunch of mistakes in the script. And just like that, we already wrote 1,800 lines of JSFX. Aren't we the fastest programmers ever? The mythical man-month situation here. We are 10x programmers. Yo. Hahaha. Isn't that concept laughable? Okay. What changed? We are done with border radius. The names are right in that situation. And then we are replacing a bunch of underscores. Or we are adding a bunch of underscores. Nice. Let's see what else we have going on in the chat. I can only see, Bo says, okay, Arya agrees it's 74. Bo says, I can only see colored blobs. I've done a number of those tests. They never go well. By the way, one type of in-jokes designer have is inventing weird color names. Okay. I guess we can have, okay, so if you want this color name to be there, it will be there. Now, Bo, tell me the RGB values for this color. It will be part of the library. But you have to tell me the RGB colors, the RGB coordinates for the color. Yep. Just let me know in the chat the RGB colors for this color that you invented. Reviewing. Yeah, everything seems correct. So while Bo is taking care of finding the RGB values for this, how about we start putting this for distribution? Of course, it's not ready. It's far from being ready, but it could be on GitHub. Why? Is this like a bad word or something? Like a curse word in Swedish? Oh yeah, I missed color, but Bo is saying that we shouldn't do it. So yeah, is it like a bad word in Swedish or something that I don't know? Am I like missing the joke here? Yeah, so let's get this ready for distribution in Repack. I don't think I will publish it. I don't need to publish yet, but it's nice to have this on GitHub so you all can see what's going on. So I'll go to Effects and drop these two as a copy there, and then open my REAPER stuff, and I have a bunch of things that I have not committed. But let's just do this to commit and push. It's not available in Repack yet because I didn't create the index file, but if you want to follow along and maybe contribute something, you can go to GitHub and it will be there. So that's that for now. Thank you all for being here and for joining me on this adventure. It will be a lot of fun. We'll continue doing this on Thursday because tomorrow we are going to do Aria's new website, I think, over here on my channel. And on Wednesday over here on my channel, we'll be recording more weird things like percussion, and maybe we will move on to something like background vocals. I'm kind of getting tired of recording weird sounds. And then on Thursday, I will come back to this. So this week, all the coding streams, except for tomorrow, when we'll be doing a website, all of them are about JSFX. It's JSFX galore this week. We'll have a lot of fun. And yeah, thanks for supporting me by being here, for going to PayPal, Patreon, subscribing to the channel. You know what to do. And if you liked, and then give it the magical like button, the magical like for the video, because someone really likes the videos, and I always have one like before I even start streaming, so I like you back. And or give a dislike and I will dislike you back. It's fine by me, either way. It's your computer. You can click on whatever buttons you want. I see you tomorrow. Let me get out of here. Bye. No, my keyboard shortcut didn't work. Go away, go away. Thanks for watching.